So desserts though, like if you hear the ice cream truck, right? You hear the jingle. You're going out to the ice cream truck.
Ding dong, ding.
What is the 12-year-old beer man getting from the ice cream truck?
Getting from the ice cream truck.
Yeah. I'm a toasted almond man, but I went through periods of ice cream, the cookie ice cream sandwich, the chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwich, the creamsicle.
I like the vanilla ice cream with chocolate and peanuts. And I don't even know what
the drumstick.
The drumstick, like a drumstick.
You are a boring son of a bitch.
I'm a drumstick guy.
A drumstick guy.
What are you? What do you like?
A toasted almond.
A toasted almond?
That's
what are you?
right.
You're a wild man
And
because you like toasted almonds?
Coconut. Toasted coconut ice cream.
Let's crack these beers.
Okay. Toasted coconut ice cream. Cheers.
Cheers.
Uh-huh. Well, Miller Lite. Now we're switching over to
El
Corona.
Cerveza.
We're going south of the border.
We're going south of the border. All right.
That's very nice. That would go well with the toasted almond ice cream.
Oh, God. Who eats
Wouldn't
that?
it?
Toasted
Top 3 desserts. I'm going toasted coconut ice cream, hot fudge sundae, and the gelato, the one with the chocolate in it, really like the real Italian gelato, the stracciatella.
Yeah.
But I do like pistachio ice cream as a sleeper. That's my 4th on the.
My 5th is carrot cake. Manel, the girl I'm seeing, makes a mean carrot cake, and it's all made from fresh carrots that she chops up and slices and puts in there, whatever she does to them. Chops up and slices, peels them. Hot apple pie.
With a la mode?
No.
Just
no,
the hot apple
mode.
pie.
I just like a la mode. Don't be adding
Not even a glass of milk?
shit to my apple
You
pie.
need dairy with apple pie.
I'd have a little glass of milk.
Thank you.
I'd have a glass of milk. Caramel cheesecake is my number 3.
Caramel cheesecake.
And my number 1 and 2 are kind of one and the same. A smoking hot chocolate chip cookie. Just out of the oven. Right out of the oven. I know I'd like some ice cream with it too. That'd be nice, but I don't need it. And the chocolate brownie.
The layer of technical analysis that's going
chocolate
into
brownie,
this.
I need a scoop of.
God, if you're not watching
brownie,
this,
I need a scoop.
If you're not watching the beer man's face on, he is so much more invested in dessert than the NFL football league.
Fuck football. Talking about sugar.
Son of a bitch, here we go. We're going into coaches and college football programs, the greatest of all time. We're not going to start at the top, so don't mention his name. We'll get there. We'll work our way through to the 7 national championships and blah, blah, blah.
15.
Yeah, whatever. But when we're talking about this, we got to do the window of today, right? So if we focus on the window of today so that we don't alienate audience members who are younger and more relevant and more vibrant than us, I look at Georgia and Kirby Smart. I look at Clemson and Dabo Swinney. Obviously, Alabama is still relevant with Saban moving out, DeBoer moving in. Sarkisian has got it revved up again at Texas, but Texas had some lean years, so hold the phone on the Texas Longhorn program. Is there anybody else? All right, I didn't mention one purposely, but is there anybody else that you say, wow, they're really putting themselves in position to be considered the greatest college football program of all time?
Notre Dame. It hasn't been of late. But Notre Dame, they've got 13 national titles. Ohio State.
Oh, of course.
They've got 8. I mean, they haven't fared too well against Michigan the last few years, but they had a good run. What was it, 5, 6, 7 years before that they won every game?
Yeah, Ohio State is an interesting one. They were better than Michigan during the Woody Hayes era. They were worse than Michigan during the John Cooper era. They were better than Michigan during the Urban Meyer era. They're not as good as Michigan during the Ryan Day era, but even that jury is way out because Ryan Day's record is damn near perfect if he takes Michigan out of the schedule. So you got to put the Ohio State Buckeyes in the top 5 of any list that you're ever putting together when it comes to college football programs.
Yep, and I've got Oklahoma, 7 national titles. USC, I don't know why they would be ranked less than them, 9 national titles. Michigan, 9 national titles.
Most wins of any college football program.
Yeah.
That's another feather in the cap of the 2023 current national champion.
I've got Yale on here, but Joe and I were talking about this earlier. That was at a different time.
Yeah,
Right.
not even considered a Division I
Different
program
time.
now.
Although they had 18 national titles.
As we always talk about, you can only judge against the peers that you were able to play at the time.
Yeah.
We build in that caveat. Obviously Southern Cal. But Southern Cal, the John Robinson era is the heyday of Southern Cal with Charles
And they were all
White.
getting paid too.
Amen.
They were all getting paid too.
But we talked about this, right? And we talked about the fact that Bud Wilkinson and those great Oklahoma Sooners teams, the 3 years in a row, didn't lose a game. The 57 team in particular. Wilkinson had the touchdown club. He built a model for getting players paid in the offseason. John Robinson in USC, Terry Donahue in UCLA at the same time. Those, there's plenty of those stories. It extends. Oklahoma is certainly carrying most of the weight for college football scandal undercurrent of, because Barry Switzer.
Why do you like Oklahoma so much? You always have. There's no hook.
So
you don't
there is a
know
hook.
anybody there. What's your hook?
There is a hook. Okay, so my
Because
grandfather.
Gary Rutan
No,
hates that you love Oklahoma.
My grandfather was a Steve Owens fan, won the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma. I was a Billy Sims fan growing up, who won the
Okay.
Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma.
Okay.
Then when I came into my own as a linebacker, or so I thought, until I switched positions, Brian Bosworth
Why
wore
didn't you take number 20?
because by then I was 44. Right, well, I was Brian Bosworth by then, right? So I was wearing number 44, and then of course I got to our alma mater and switched it to number 22 because 44 was already taken for. But we both agree, the only numbers to be worn on a college football field or pro you didn't get to decide are multiples of 11. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. Those are the greatest numbers that you can
No,
wear.
those are the greatest numbers to play at the craps table, Joe.
And the greatest numbers to wear on the field. Let's be clear. There's the multiple of 11 is a lucky thing.
I think so.
Until
Until you get hurt, then you're unlucky.
it looks the best on a jersey too. Outside of the single digits, which also look sharp, you got to go to the multiples of 11. But we'll
55.
digress.
Dino Candela.
Oh my
55.
God! You had to bring up the Italian stallion.
44. Who was 44?
The oldest football player in the history of college football. I think he's on the list.
I don't
Dino
think that's
Candela
true.
is on the list.
I don't think that's true.
There was an All-American actually at the University of Michigan who was like 32.
No,
Look it up.
The quarterback at Florida State, Winky.
He
He played at like 28.
25, 26.
No, older.
Cam Rising right now for Utah is 25. Right, bringing it back into the Georgia quarterback who just won the national
Yeah.
championship was in his
Well,
mid-20s.
that was even one of the questions when I got drafted. I was 25.
But you told him, you had a lucrative career as a male stripper during that block.
Yes, and I had to. Yes, I
You had to take a pay
I had
cut.
to take a pay cut to play college football.
Playing the NFL
It was
almost.
fucked up. Yeah, it's just not even.
I mean,
it's
you and
not
the
even
banana
fair.
hammock.
Not even.
You
fair.
and the banana hammock were pulling in hundos like they were going out of style, making it rain. It was like a P Diddy white party freak off at your place.
Yeah, there's no P Diddy freak offs. That's for sure.
Oh,
we
remains.
tried. We tried.
That
we tried
debate-
a couple times.
That debate remains to be fueled. We'll find out about that. That era of Oklahoma, Barry Switzer, since you're talking about my love for the Sooners, he takes a lot of heat because he didn't make any bones about it. When he was done, when he was coaching the Cowboys, he came out with the book, The Bootlegger's Boy, and he flat out said, yeah, I fixed some grades. I got some kids what they needed. But you know what? J.C. Watts becomes minority whip of Congress, and he would have ended up working in a tire shop for his old man. So net results, right? So this whole NIL, the way that the portal works, the money, everything that's changing hands now, it was going on a long time ago. They were just better at figuring out ways to hide it.
We talk about that all the time, like the upbringing that most football players have. And there are football players that came from money. Less than 5%?
Yeah.
Right?
For every one Johnny Manziel,
Yeah.
there's 150 guys who had dirt.
Yeah, that had dirt. Yeah. That parents kicked them out of the house in the winter and said, go shoot baskets for 2 hours outside when it's freezing cold.
Yeah, figure it out.
And I went out there for 2 hours. Correct. They didn't want to see you in the house. Yeah. No, I got Penn State on here too. They had some great teams in the 90s and even in they've been good for 30, 40 years. But
Penn State's a great one, right? Because you got James Franklin trying to put it together. He hasn't figured out how to get over the hump against these blue bloods in the Big Ten with Michigan and Ohio State, even Iowa kind of preaching from the pulpit that he wants to get his hands on.
yeah,
And he
how
hasn't
long
been
is
able to.
he's been there?
A bit.
30?
No. James Franklin's under.
No. Iowa.
Oh, yeah, Ferentz is right there. He's
Maybe
he's,
not 30.
He's 20
maybe
plus
20.
though.
20
Yeah.
plus, yeah.
Yeah, he's 20 plus. And coming off of Hayden Fry. Remember, he took the torch from Hayden Fry, who's on my short list here for coaches and programs. I mean, Hayden Fry, you even talk about the coaching list that came off, like the tree that came off of Hayden Fry. Bill Snyder, the Stoops brothers, Bob and Mark.
Look at the tree that came off. Look at Saban. Are you kidding me? Want to talk about a tree?
Yeah, these guys have produced a lot of other great coaches.
Yeah.
I want to make one story known though about Hayden Fry. And this will never happen again because nobody has the patience for this to happen again. His first job, he left Frank Broyles at Arkansas and went over to SMU, and he got a nice contract, a 5-year deal to do so. He was kind of the hot coordinator.
Probably $200,000 a year.
In 1961.
Oh, it's probably $50,000 a year.
He gets a deal to go over to SMU to try to revitalize a program that had 0 wins. Okay. He takes over. They win a couple games. They win a couple more. Then they have a bad year, go back down. You'd have never gotten over that hump if you won a couple games, won one game. Then he comes back. He wins 4 games. In his 5th season, the final year of his contract, he wins the league and goes to the Cotton Bowl. And that sparks his whole career. Nowadays, he'd have never gotten to that 5th year. They'd have bought out his contract when he had the 1-win season in the middle of the 5 years. And there's no way a team with 1 win, that guy gets another year. So Hayden Fry, because of the patience and because people didn't buy out contracts, they didn't waste money back in the day. They had the patience at SMU to stay with him, and that spawns the great career where he ends up being Iowa's all-time winningest coach, one of the all-time winningest coaches in the history of college football.
Yeah. A similar story that I've got. When I was getting drafted, I was before the draft, and I had to fly because I didn't get invited to the combine. I went to an all-star game in Fargo, North Dakota in January of 1994. And after that, I had to travel to all these teams, or they had to come see me. And I went out to Cleveland for a visit, and I met with Woody Woodenhofer, who used to be the linebacker coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jack Ham and Jack Lambert. And I met with him, and he really liked me. And I came home, and they brought me back out to Cleveland for another visit. And I get there, and they said, "You're going to meet with the owner of the team. We may draft you." Now, mind you, I was quite happy just being a free agent, but they said they may draft me. So I go and I meet with Belichick and Art Modell for about 15 minutes, just us three, and they ask you a bunch of stupid-ass questions. Where did you grow up? What do your parents do? What do you do in your free time? All this stuff. But Belichick, it was really cool to see what happened after he was in Cleveland, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or when he got Tom Brady. And when Tom Brady, and the reason I'm bringing this up is that I think coaching is overrated in general, right?
Yeah,
if you got stud players, you got stud players. Period. Does coaching play a role? Sure, because they decide who plays and who doesn't, right? Or who plays at a position and who plays at this position. But he was nothing back then. I didn't even think. It's funny when you see Bill Belichick now, maybe the best ever coach in the history of the NFL. He wasn't that way in Cleveland because he didn't have the studs.
No.
And he didn't have, and I get this argument all my time at Western Golf and Country Club with my buddies, is they think that coaching is more important than players. No way. I don't care. I don't care at what level.
No, I mean,
coaching is not more important than a good quarterback.
Look at what happened with the Dallas Cowboys. Jimmy Johnson was supposedly a guru. He leaves. Barry Switzer steps in, who by all accounts, listen to Troy Aikman talk about it. Troy Aikman basically says he was coaching the offense at that point when Barry Switzer came in, and they still win a Super Bowl.
Well, look at Tom Brady. When he left and went to Tampa, I said he's going to win a Super Bowl. They said, no way, Tampa sucks. Bill Belichick's going to kill people. And how'd Bill Belichick do?
That's right. That's right.
So-
The Pete Carroll, people have talked about, Pete Carroll's teams. A lot of times he'd let free reign. It was all about the talent. He was a player's coach, supposedly.
That's Wayne Fonts. Wayne Fonts was a player's
It's
coach.
across every sport. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the Mets. Guys doing cocaine in the bathroom over here, but they could play.
Yeah.
A bunch of guys, didn't matter how wild and crazy and how many arrests. The Mets of Davey Johnson's era with Darryl Strawberry and Keith Hernandez and Dwight Gooden, those teams, in sports, if you got all the right players in all the right spots, you just have to keep a lid on the madness.
Yeah. Or like Ndamukong Suh. Or is that the way you say it? I think I said it right.
Ndamukong.
Yeah. Would I want to play with him? Hell yes. A big, nasty off defensive lineman that just steps on people's head.
Bench press 600 pounds.
Dude, I know, and just could play. And everybody's like, oh, he's a dirty player. We're in the NFL. It's a dirty game.
It is.
It's a dirty game.
It is.
So football is just nasty.
And
It
that's
just
part,
is.
I think that, the personality of these programs, these college football, they set the tone for and a lot of pro coaches now are looking for that in the college program that they take guys from. Did this guy go through the gauntlet? Was this player trained to be nasty? Because this sport is for serious people that understand the level of sacrifice and the ability to get down and dirty and flip the switch at a moment's notice.
Here's why I like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes so much. They don't miss often.
No.
Surprisingly, a lot of these teams they have this they have a all-star game, right? The East-West game or whatever. They get to see these guys for 4 days, hand-to-hand combat with everybody against the best. And they miss. They miss. They miss a lot. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have not really Dan Campbell. He's in there in the draft room,
Sure.
but Brad Holmes drafts the people. He doesn't miss. He's more spot on than missing.
Yeah, he's a bit of a wizard. He's got a little
whatever he's
witch.
got. He's getting dogs. You know, he's getting some nasty football players.
Yeah, people. You mentioned it off microphone about the handsiness of Terry and Arnold. Some people are have been critical of this. Hey, man, that is what gets it done in the NFL right now. If you're not getting hands on a guy, if you're not playing right to the edge of cheating a little bit and getting an advantage, then you're going to get abused.
I was watching Alabama and their cornerbacks, and they had a couple, freshman quarterbacks, and they were all over the receivers the whole game.
100%.
The whole game.
And you watch Brian Branch playing safety for the Lions right now.
Yeah.
He's
special.
Filthy.
He's special.
He is on people like the stink, like the body odor that they deserve.
I think the most instinctive player on the Lions, by far, that I see is Brian Branch.
Yeah, he's running stride for stride.
He doesn't miss steps. He doesn't take steps that are, that are not needed.
And we're going to end up talking about the guy who coached him in college a lot at the top of this list. So as I kind of hone in here and get us on track, I think that the blue blood programs at the bottom of the list, the bottom of the blue bloods, moving my way up, I agree with you on Penn State.
Yeah.
I think Texas and LSU are in that mix. LSU, they've got a couple of titles. They've done it with different coaches, right? They've had the Les Miles era, the Short Orgeron era. Saban stops in for a minute, and of course now it's on to our friend Brian Kelly, former Grand Valley State head coach. They've been able to do it with a lot of coaches. The other program that's now moving into the middle of my list, I think they're going to be closer to the top of yours, that also did it with a lot of coaches, the Miami Hurricanes. Mm-hmm. Coker, Davis, Johnson, Dennis Erickson.
They've had a new coach every year.
Lots of coaches, lots of dominance for the
Florida
Miami
State.
Hurricanes.
I've got Florida State on there. They were very dominant in the 90s.
They're way up the list for me.
Yeah.
Way up the list. And most of it is Bobby Bowden.
Yeah.
Let's pause for a second on Bobby Bowden. He gets a couple of national championships. He's got 346 wins. But this is the most amazing statistic that you will hear about Bobby Bowden, and no other coach can claim this. He finished in the top 5 in the national rankings 14 seasons in a row. I mean, get the fuck out of here. 14 seasons in a row in college football in the top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, that is mind-blowing that the Florida State Seminoles were able to put that kind of consistent success together.
He's a good recruiter.
100%.
Yes. Is he a good coach? Yes. But when you have stud players that are the best receiver and the top running back coming out of high school that commits to you as a freshman, you get good players and you win games.
He won 76% of his games at Florida State.
He's got great players.
Joe Paterno and the Penn State, and you brought up Penn State. James Franklin is the ship captain right now, trying to steer that thing over the Blue Bloods. But Paterno, at 409 wins, that's the most wins. I mean, I know that the criticism comes, and rightfully so, for the way that the program was handled and some of the oversight as it related to Jerry Sandusky and the scandal there. But 409 wins. He won 75% of his games. He won national championships. He took them to 37 bowl games, Tom, and they won 24 of them.
When I watch that's the documentary on Sandusky, I think if Paterno went back, I don't think he would change what he did. That's the way we used to do stuff back in the 70s and 80s. A lot of stuff didn't get reported, right? Or it didn't get brought to the surface.
It was a suck it up and move on.
It was suck it up, exactly. What, was he wrong? Oh my God, yeah, he was
100%.
wrong. And the poor kid is getting
you can't justify
molested in the bathroom by his defensive coordinator, the second guy in charge, and you don't say anything?
Yeah.
But when I watched that, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think he was a great person, and he helped a lot of people in football and in life, and they talked all about all the things that he would do for ex-players and help them, transition to life and get a job and give them.
Oh yeah, I mean the guys who
the guy was awesome.
Guy breaks his neck in Paterno in high school, but Paterno had already offered him a scholarship, so he gave him the 4-year scholarship, even though he knew he was never going to play it down.
Correct.
There's a lot of those stories, and I do agree with you. I think that in that era, not excusing it, the theory was, think about the greater good. Is this going to ruin the university? Is this going to ruin everybody?
Which it would have.
Right?
Which it would have.
And nowadays, we look at much more closely, this is a human being. And
now, I think a coach that denied that would probably go to jail.
Oh, sure.
Look at the parents.
Sure.
If you're a parent now and your son
You're
or daughter
accessory.
takes a gun into a school or whatever, you're liable.
That's right.
So
it's a different world. Paterno gets on there, and if you're and then when you get into the Bobby Bowden, the Joe Paterno, you got to bring up the Oklahoma coaches, Bud Wilkinson and Barry Switzer. Switzer.
Yeah.
They both have the 3 national championships, and they both, Wilkinson competed with other coaches at Nebraska, but Barry Switzer was going head on with Tom Osborne, and the Nebraska football team, now run by Matt Rule, that's also on this Blue Blood list.
Yeah.
Where do you have Nebraska?
I got Nebraska probably in the top 15. They've won, 4 national titles?
Does your buddy Rayola's son get them back into contention in the next 2 seasons? Yes or no?
I think he's good. I like it. It kind of reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. I think I've watched one of his games, and he played well, but they played Colorado, who's horrible on defense. So, I mean, they've got a couple good corners, but their front 7 are, nothing.
So jury's out on whether or not Rayola can bring Nebraska back
I'd say the jury's out. I mean, it looks like, they've got a great defensive line, and
I think Matt Rule's a hell of a coach.
I think he's a great coach, and obviously he'll have the right coaching, but the jury's out.
Yeah, West Coast is USC. All right, so USC is the blue blood on the West Coast. You can throw the Don James Washington Huskies, and then more recently Kalen DeBoer's team now that he's moved on to Alabama. And you can also throw in there Oregon, but Oregon hasn't been able to get over the hump to a championship. There's been a lot of flash, a lot of sizzle, and not a lot of steak for the Oregon
Yeah, when
Ducks.
you're talking about best programs in the nation, you have to leave those out, I think.
Do you put Florida in with the Urban Meyer, Tim Tebow?
Yes, absolutely. You got to put Florida in.
Even though that's kind of the only...
I'd put them in my top 20. I wouldn't put them in a top 10, I don't think.
Yeah. The Gators are down again now. They were kind of down before Urban Meyer. I mean, they had.
So is Florida State.
I should let me reclaim that. The Steve Spurrier era at Florida is fantastic. Okay. The Spurrier era gives way to the Urban Meyer era. That's a great run for Florida. Early on, Florida is not a powerhouse in the blue blood contention. And then at the end now, we're seeing Florida in a woeful situation. We'll see if they can rebound from that. But I do agree that the Spurrier and Urban Meyer eras get them into the list.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have Ohio State as my top 5. 8 national titles. I mean, obviously, number 2 I've got is Notre Dame. Just the tradition and all the great teams that they've had. I mean, going back, 100 years? I mean, what I don't even know.
Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Michigan.
Yeah.
Those 3 programs, Michigan with the most wins, Ohio State with by far the most professional football. I mean, you look at the way Ohio State has produced pros, Miami back in our day, and now Ohio State. Now Ohio State is the professional football factory. Alabama and Ohio State are putting out more pros and more talent than anybody.
Well, look at Michigan. 14 guys on Michigan's team last year are made NFL teams. That's crazy.
And Harbaugh did bring Michigan back. The Schembechler and Moeller and Lloyd Carr, they had a nice run there. It was bad news in Ann Arbor, though, before Jim Harbaugh came to town. And while Jim Harbaugh was in town for a little bit. I mean, he resurrected the program, but he had his own moments of struggle along the way. So I do have to downgrade Michigan beneath Alabama, Ohio State,
and Notre Dame.
Probably Notre Dame and Southern Cal.
Yeah.
I think, Southern Cal's been dominant over Michigan until
last week.
Yeah, until last week. You look at the overall numbers.
Yeah, and they had to run for a touchdown on 4th down with no time left.
Yeah, and they were mostly playing the past games in California in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
So you're almost getting a home game out there. Oklahoma and Texas are obviously I have Oklahoma above Texas. But I'm going to stake my claim right now. I'm going to put Clemson in there with Dabo Swinney for the recent, they also won that 80-81, I think, championship. But I'm going to put Alabama number 1 with a bullet.
No question.
It's the Bear Bryant 6 national championships. 78% of his games ended in a Alabama victory. 323 wins overall. And then Nick Saban wins 6 more. He also has a 7th at LSU. And an incredible.
God, I forgot about that. Nick Saban was at LSU.
And
Michigan State, LSU, then Alabama.
And that Michigan State team
was good.
He made a run with Michigan State.
Was he Lorenzo White? Was that?
No, that was Perlis.
That was Perlis. That was after that.
He was after that. I think he might have even been like Plaxico Burress.
Yeah.
You look at the way that Alabama had that one moment post Bear Bryant. I think David Shula came in, was the coach for a minute. They had this one patch, but other than this one little hiccup, that program has been right there in consistent championship contention every year. Their bowl game record is disgusting, and it's disgusting in one of the best conferences that has ever been positioned in any sport. The SEC football right now, amongst all sports of the competitive level of play, SEC football, I have to put on par with any other conference of any other sport. Where it happens for me, where you can really see it,
is the lineman.
Is the front 7 line.
The front 7.
When you watch a front 7 that is unblockable, it can get embarrassing really quickly in these bowl games.
Yeah.
A lot of the SEC front 7, their stunts, their games, their athleticism, the one-on-one play at the edge rushers. I mean,
well, look at Colorado.
They just can't compete.
Deion Sanders says it all the time. He goes, "We're not playing Alabama till I get some beef in here. I know what I've got. I've got great skill players. We got a great quarterback. I got good DBs. I got good running backs. We got no offense and defensive line, and they don't have it this year. Did you see the Nebraska game? That game, it was 28-0 the first half. And
that's what really changed things. To me, that's what changed the Florida program. Steve Spurrier never really got 100% of the memo about what he needed to have in the trenches. Spurrier had great teams, and he out-schemed a lot of coaches. But it wasn't really till Urban Meyer where you really saw Florida teams that could punch people in the mouth. Bobby Bowden knew it from day one. Bobby Bowden had that Florida State thing going in that direction from day one, and that's why they had such consistent excellence. The Big Ten teams understand the value of the trenches, but they didn't understand the athleticism that you needed at the edges and at the linebacker position. The Big Ten was still running Dick Butkus-style linebackers out there, while other teams were running Ray Lewis-style linebackers out there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they definitely Alabama took the game to a different level with the guys up front.
Let's dive into one of these programs a little more deeply because they take the most heat in our hometown. Do you think that Ryan Day, now that he's gotten another great coach and Chip Kelly to come over and run his offense, and he's begged, borrowed, and stolen in every dimension of the portal and the NIL world to put a
he got that great running back
Judkins from Ole Miss.
From Ole Miss. I mean,
and Will Howard. I mean, they got him everywhere. They took one from Alabama, the DB, Downs. From what you've seen so far, do you think it's enough? Or is Ohio State about to put another feather in their cap as one of the greatest programs?
They're going to beat
time?
Michigan 40-10.
40-10, you're calling?
Yes, they're going to beat Michigan 40-10.
Write it down.
4-0.
40-10.
I already picked
points.
Michigan too in an earlier podcast to win the national championship.
In an earlier, this is a revision.
A revision, yeah. So obviously I don't believe in that, but I think so. But they got to. You've always got that injury bug. The injury bug affects every team, NFL, college. It's the same thing. You got to keep people healthy, and the only way that a team is going to beat Ohio State is if they're down a few players and they're not at full strength. I think if they're at full strength, I don't think anyone can beat them.
I think Georgia can beat them.
Well,
I think Clemson looks really good again. I would not sleep on Klubnik and Dabo Sweeney. I think that he's got it revved up again, and I think Oregon is gonna give them fits in the Big Ten. I wouldn't count Michigan out. I don't think 40-10. I agree they're going to be outclassed from a talent standpoint, so they're going to have to find a way to control that clock and take the air.
They're
out
not
of the
going to
ball.
run the football on Ohio State.
I don't think so. I agree with you there.
No.
But I also think that LSU is going to stay in the mix, and Texas is fully back, right? The Mac Brown era brought them semi back, right, with Vince Young and that great team. Sarkisian and what he's doing right now, they're fully back.
Ewers, the quarterback, I thought that he was probably one of the best quarterbacks I've seen with footwork and looking people off and making plays. I think he's going.
Have you ever been to Texas?
No.
You ever been to Austin? You see a game in Texas?
No. I played whatever what was the old place that they
Texas
have a new,
Stadium. It's been Texas.
Yeah,
now
but
it's
they
the
have
new
a new
Texas
one.
Stadium.
They have a new Texas Stadium.
Jerry World.
I played there, but we're in and out. We go in on
AT&T
on Sunday and leave on Monday night after the game. So
it's crazy, right? So 6th Street is crazy. What's your best atmosphere for a football game at these programs that you've been to?
Oh gosh, I haven't been to that many colleges. I've been to Ohio State. Michigan's cool. Probably the coolest place was Green Bay. There was just something about Green Bay. The fans are there 2 hours early. It's just a cool stadium, and
there is something special about Green Bay. All
there's
those
something,
monuments.
Yeah, just something special about Green. Yeah, the outside where they've got all the monuments outside, and probably Green Bay. Or Jack Murphy, which is no longer there. Jack Murphy in San Diego was cool.
Yeah, the San Diego.
We had a Monday night game in San Diego, and we come out, and Hank Williams Jr. is in the middle of the field. It was sweet.
That had to be awesome.
That was sweet.
I love the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is,
Haven't been there.
It is the granddaddy of them all.
Did you go and see Van Gorder?
I did not do that.
Oh, you didn't go.
I didn't do
one.
that trip.
Okay.
Between the Hedges in Georgia, Death Valley, LSU. Going to O'Connell's and Owen Field and the Norman, Oklahoma is a phenomenal experience for college football. But I would say my number one is Arrowhead. The Chiefs have done something
I've never been there.
with their they got the downtown, the KC Power and Light, and then you go over to the stadium, the Arrowhead.
Ford Field's pretty cool too.
The Eastern
It is.
Market and what our boys over at Bullseye have done with the
downtown
VIP
Detroit,
tailgate in Eastern Market.
Downtown Detroit's really come around.
It has. Just as an aside, though, I know that we're talking about football today. Have you ever been to a ball game in Pittsburgh? You ever been to Heinz Field or PNC across the street, the Pirates Park?
No, I've been to the Paints Field. I went last year. My buddy Mike Vellucci coaches for the Penguins. So we went to was it Pittsburgh Paint? I can't.
Yeah.
Something Paint. I don't even know what it was.
But all the stadiums are right there, right? And you go right across.
Pittsburgh's cool.
It is Pittsburgh is set up amazingly well for sports.
Yeah.
They've really done a nice job. I love going to games.
But I remember when we played in Pittsburgh, we'd fly out, we'd get in the bus, and you go through this tunnel, and you come out of this tunnel, and it's up in a mountain. And you come and you look, and you're looking right down at the stadium.
Yeah.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
It was. Pittsburgh was pretty.
Well,
cool.
you mentioned the best entrance. What most people consider the best entrance in college football is Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Coming out to Enter Sandman.
Yeah.
You got the Metallica jamming and now the lights
I keep
flashing.
telling my son we're going to go sometime.
We do have to do that. We do have to do that. And I want to make mention, the last one that I'm going to bring up, a couple, so I lied. Bill Snyder, Kansas State. That's an amazing run for football, putting Kansas State on the map from being a program that was the laughing stock of college football. And the Bill Snyder era, they're in it to win it every year. Lavelle Edwards from BYU. Nobody mentions BYU, but that's a program that just figures out how to win under very bizarre recruiting standards of getting a kid in there. And then the big one comes right out of Virginia Tech. 24 out of 27 years winning bowl teams. Frank Beamer Ball. They were terrible before him. They're terrible after him, or just mediocre after him. So Frank Beamer had something special at Virginia Tech.
Wow. I didn't know that he was there for 24 years.
27.
That's rare. That's rare.
So
Look at all these coaches move around now.
There's a few of these guys. I think we've mentioned. So who is your final list, your Mount Rushmore of blue blood programs? We both had Bama at the top. How does your 2, 3, 4 go?
Notre Dame, Ohio State. And my last one, I'm going to go Michigan. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan.
I go Bama, Oklahoma, USC, and I'm going to go Michigan and Ohio State tied.
Okay. That's fair.
That's my breakdown. I would have Notre Dame there. I just don't know when they're coming back.
None of the picks are wrong.
Yeah, I don't know when Notre Dame's coming back into the picture. Historically, certainly Notre Dame deserves to be there. Historically, Army deserves to be there.
Yeah. So is Yale.
Yeah, but I'm not putting the four horsemen
I'm not putting Yale
into my
there.
list today. Anybody else that you experience, the tailgate, the venue, the program, who did you want to play for most? Who would you have died to play for when you're going into college?
Michigan.
The Big House.
No question.
The Big House would have
I'm
been
from Michigan, no question.
Would have been number one.
I would have liked State too. I mean, back then State was really good, and a lot of the guys that I played with in the NFL, like Jim Miller and Ty Halleck and Rob Fredrickson, I was good friends with them in the offseason. They're great guys. I mean, Gannon Dudlar. I mean, I knew a few guys that played at Michigan too. They were great guys too, but the guys that played at Michigan State, it would have been really cool to play with.
I think Michigan is there for me as well. I mean, the pageantry of the Big House is something special unto itself. Yeah. Shout out to Yale Van Dyne and some of our other Michigan football friends. But we put them near the top. We put Bama as our number one. We will see very shortly in this season whether or not the Alabama Crimson Tide are able to make the transition from the greatest college football coach of all time. We both agree, 7 national champions, Nick Saban, and Bear Bryant before him, whether or not that tradition can roll tide on very shortly.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Cheers, my friend. One more sip, and down we go. An expertly produced and mediocrely researched podcast has been presented to you by Joe Willie and the Beer Man. Thank you for joining us. Go online at GOATQUEST.com. Find us on all the platforms. Look for the information in the show notes. We'll welcome you back next time to GOAT Quest.